Thank you. You waiting for this shit for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took a minute.
Yes.
Here we are.
Yes, we're finally here. So first things first, man. I'm Shawn, and we got Nate. Can you say your last name for the people?
We got Nate Sroor here.
Oh, so it's Sroor.
No, there's no H, brother. No H.
Sroor. Did I say it right?
Sroor. No H.
Sroor.
Dinosaur.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll work on it. Audience, if anybody can pronounce my name correct first try, I got a prize for you.
Literally. No, yeah. This is the Storyline Marketing Podcast, the Storyline. And today, every podcast, the main reason this exists is we have a storyline that we want to go ahead and introduce to the world. And we're really big on documenting the process when it comes down to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, so we can look back on it, 10, 20 years from now, where we don't have to reference what we did back in 10 years ago, like our grandparents do. We don't have to say back in my day. Now we can say, hey, go on YouTube, type on YouTube, Storyline Marketing episode 4, and then this is what your granddad was doing. And most importantly, and I want to know, I'm sure you attest to this, but most importantly, hold ourselves accountable. If we're going to say
facts,
we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And this podcast is a perfect example. I was just talking about earlier, like the fact of saying we're going to make this happen. And I wanted to podcast and telling you about it, telling Isaac about it, and fighting procrastination. And actually coming through and saying we're going to do what we're going to do. And we're finally here. And so this is what this podcast is about. First person we have on is Nate, and we're going to be doing this objectively, shooting to do this at least once a week, maybe twice a week right now, once a week, to, again, just document the process. We don't necessarily have any answers. It's more so we're documenting our process as entrepreneurs. We're both entrepreneurs, been in the game. How long you been an entrepreneur? When do you remember?
Yeah, first thing ever. Those who know me know I've done content on and off for probably the last 10, 12 years or so. I have videos on YouTube, bro, from 2011, 2010, of me just, being a 10-year-old kid playing video games and stuff like that. Didn't do it. Podcast in 2020, did it, stopped doing it. So like this, now not only I feel like we have a lot more to talk about than we did maybe a few years ago, but there's also 2 of us running this shit now. So it's like, if for some reason we can't, if one person's, I don't got time this week or whatever it is, like, no, we're going to do it. And to your exact point, we're going to document not only our journey, but hopefully inspire and, maybe motivate and get people on the right track along the way as well.
Got you. Yeah, 100%. Where can people find you? First off, Instagram, because we're gonna put this out at scale. So let's go ahead and start with that. So what's your Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Nate X Sroor, Sroor.
Sroor.
That is the Instagram, or just look up Nate X. You'll find me on IG.
Yes, and if you want to follow me as well, Wealthy Thinking 101, we're going to post these on the storyline as of right now. And then as far as like snippets go on Instagram, and we're going to post on Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, because we're going to talk about anything and everything as each week comes about. We'll turn our mind, topics that might be relevant to what be going on in the world, to what's going on in our lives, and combine it together. And most importantly, attracting people that can either resonate or might be on a similar journey. So you can go ahead and tune in. So that's why we're going to put it everywhere. So be sure to tune in there. So first things first. So you said 10 years you've been in the game as far as an entrepreneur. Like, give me your first entrepreneur thought.
Yeah. So, back, it's so interesting because I never even really considered myself to be an entrepreneur of sorts. I never thought that was going to be what I ended up doing with my life. But I remember vividly back in like elementary school, I had a buddy who knew how to make like these little origami like turtle type things. And what we would do is he knew how to make them. And this was like, looking back on it, this is probably like my first entrepreneurial thought was like, okay, this guy knows how to supply something. Other kids in the school who don't know how to make them, including myself, want to buy them. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Let's take the supply with the demand and put it together. So I ended up doing that, where like he would basically make them. I would sell them to kids, for like a nickel, quarter, or whatever the fuck it was, and then just split the profit or whatever. And I did that for probably 2 days, and we got, I had a lot of trouble for that because apparently soliciting other 7, 8-year-olds in school is not a very good thing. So honestly, started there, and then on and on as things grind, and you start playing sports and doing this and doing that. But then once I got to high school, like I was very focused around just making money and seeing what can I work, what can I do, it's gonna bring me the most money today was my initial thought process. And that went on from doing sales, flipping sneakers back in the easy days. Anybody listening remembers those days, doing that, doing the whole Supreme thing. And then, once I actually get into the real business world, that's where shit really starts to take off and you stop playing small and start actually, starting real companies versus just side hustles. Right. I think there's a big difference there.
What made you want to, because most people are consumers, what made you want to become a seller versus consumer? Because so he sold the origami and you saw everybody selling it and you were like, do you remember okay, I want to be a seller and not a consumer? What was appealing? Did you have anything when you were little that you liked besides selling, or was that your only thing? For me, I like blocks, and I was building blocks when I was I don't know, I was 10, 12, and I was building cities. I was I'm gonna have my own city to take over the world. But I didn't start selling stuff until my freshman year in high school, which is 2010. So was it not appealing? Did you have anything like that?
I would say I never even really thought about doing sales per se. I never, that was never, again, same thing with entrepreneurship. That was never in the thought process. But the earliest thing I can remember is I used to play a lot of video games as a kid, all the time, every day, something different. And what I would do is I'd come home from school, I'd either play video games until I couldn't, and then I would watch people or watch streamers. COD, dude. I was huge Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, Zombies even as well. I actually have a video somewhere on YouTube. Maybe it's unlisted now, but it's of me completing the Easter eggs on zombies and all the crazy stuff. So I would just consume so much of it, whether it's me playing or watching others, that eventually I was like, if I'm going to play, why don't I just fucking record it? If I'm going to have kind of the same thought process of us in this, we're going to have all these conversations, you might as well document it. And even, it's funny because even now at that time, I had opportunities in the video game world to do shit, join clans and, meet other people online. I'm 12 years old, 10 years old. It's you don't even know what's happening at the time, but looking back on it, it's the same shit. Now we're just at a different level, at a higher level. So it's really the same thought process. If I'm gonna consume, I might as well document as well.
Right. Who'd you look up to? So for me, when I was I got early into the game, Ty Lopez was one of the first gurus. Before that, I did network marketing where I sold a healthy energy drink, and then it just connected. I was healthy energy drink, people are drinking, horrible energy drinks already. Instead of buying it once a day, you could just buy it once a month, and I can make money off basically giving you a solution to something that you're already supporting $1 billion company anyway. That's where I started. And then it transitioned into Ty Lopez, where I saw the commercial here at my garage. Just bought this Lamborghini here. You know what I like more than materialistic things?
OG.
Knowledge. Who was your first? Do you have anybody that you glanced towards? Was it somebody on the internet? Was it somebody that
in the business world, or just general content?
General, it could be content, just inspiration that you saw. Whether it could be from your family or somebody you saw making money online, where you're I need to look more into that. I need to learn from that person.
No, the first thing, I'll give you two answers. In the business world, honestly, one of the first people that I ever came across was Grant Cardone, just because he was super out there in his opinions on things. And now at this day, present day, I'm not a huge fan of him and things he believes in and how he runs his teams and stuff like that. But at the time, it was
you evolved from it.
Holy shit, this guy, is an ex-drug addict. He did all this shit. He's speaking fact. He doesn't care what people think of him. He's rich as fuck. There's something here that I'm missing, and then that kind of leads you down the rabbit hole, and you start to discover everybody else who's in that world. But even the first people ever who were doing what I wanted to do, so to speak, was still, again, video games. And it was probably those of you who play Call of Duty, it was FaZe Clan. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys.
I've heard of it. Oh, Isaac, isn't there? All right.
biggest, I think still to this day, they're the biggest esports organization, period. But this was 2012. Nobody was making money playing video games, really. There was some people making money on YouTube, but I saw that these people who weren't my age, but they were like late teens, early 20s, were playing video games for a living. And I was like, fuck, how does this work? And then I started to look into YouTube and how AdSense works. And then I see that they're sponsored by these companies. And I'm like, how are these 17, 18-year-olds sponsored by companies? And then you start to understand reach and engagement and influence. So that was like what opened up like, holy shit, like you don't have to make money quote unquote the traditional way. Right. You can play video games and just document yourself doing it, have a little bit of a personality, and you can make a pretty good living. And this was way before it was like super popular.
Yeah. So this is when your traditional light bulb broke. Like,
yeah,
this is early. Like this, like you said, nobody was making money until all you heard was like, stay off those video games, stop doing this, stop doing that. And then you got idea of like, whoa, I can make money doing something that my parents have always told me, and society's always told me that I couldn't do.
Oh, and they hated it too, right? Because I'm sitting there playing video games. I've got their old computer that I didn't even have a camera every time. I'm like recording the screen of me playing video games on a front-facing camera. It was like the worst content ever. Yeah. But honestly, in hindsight, like thinking back on it, I wish I hadn't stopped. And the reason that I did stop is like one of the first things I said when we started this podcast was like, even from that age, I was like, okay, what can make me money today? And that was not something, content, even now, it's like very rarely, unless you've built up some sort of brand or presence somewhere else, can you just turn on the camera and all of a sudden you're making committed fucking money. But even at that time, it was like, I'm like, man, this is a uphill battle. I'm 13 years old. I have no money. My parents aren't going to buy this shit. So I'm like, what am I going to do? So then I just, okay, if I'm spending 6 hours a day after school doing video games, okay, well now I'm going to spend 3 hours a day doing video games and 3 hours a day working, like whatever that means, because that pays me right now. So in hindsight, I wish I hadn't sacrificed the long term for the short term, but obviously everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, you're 13, so you're like, a long time was 2 weeks. You're like,
it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's like, fuck, I gotta wait a month, man. Like a month's a long time, dude. So
that's insane.
That was where it started. Truthfully, it was like, obviously you got the early shit. But like the first time I was ever like, you don't have to live the same life was probably like 12, 13, 2012, 2013, something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, this is getting me thinking, because like for me it was like you grew up in it. Like if you were 12, 13, like what year was that? Was that like 2016?
2012, 2013.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you were 12. Yeah, I was junior in high school. So like you grew up with it when you were a kid, and then I was just, I don't know, it was like new to me. Like it's interesting to kind of think about that dynamic, because like it was so close but so far apart at the same time.
Which is so weird when you think about it, because like now, even now versus when I was like now, kids who are 12 and 13 have iPads and iPhones, and they've had them and they know how to like program and film and all this shit. I didn't have a smartphone until I was in high school. Like, so even at least where, the family I grew up in, like we weren't big on we didn't have Wi-Fi until I was in 7th grade. Like that was like the running joke, was like we didn't even have Wi-Fi. So I would just play these video games, like locally. Like I'd play with my buddies and stuff. I couldn't even play online. So like, but it's true that now it's just over the progression of time, and even it's been 23 years since 2000. Basically in 2000, the internet was like brand new essentially. Yeah. And then 2010, smartphones were, kind of the big popping thing. Now, now you're getting into Web3 and you have all these different production type things. So it's like, I feel like every decade there's some huge revolution, for lack of a better term, in the technology space. And I think the youth has the opportunity to either capture and take advantage of it or not, but then they're going to be the ones playing catch up for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, it's so new, but technology is so new. I remember when Wi-Fi was like a scarce thing. Like if you found a place that you could get Wi-Fi, it was like, oh, you got Wi-Fi? To the point now, it's like, Wi-Fi, if you don't have Wi-Fi, like it's almost sinful. It's like Wi-Fi is oxygen at this point. Like if you don't go to Starbucks and then the Wi-Fi doesn't work, you're kind of like angry. Like, well, I don't want to use my data. Like, why don't you guys have Wi-Fi? How dare you?
Even if you're in a plane 40,000 feet in the air, you got fucking high-speed Wi-Fi.
Always trash.
It is trash. It is. But like that's just the crazy thing. So I think that we've come a long way since like we first started in this stuff. And, you know, obviously you can't change the past, but like part of it, I feel like for me at least, is like trying to make up for lost time a little bit. Like I can only imagine, even if I wasn't 12, 13, like when I started my business career and I was posting on LinkedIn, I did daily videos on LinkedIn.
How old are you started that?
18. I have my first video ever. I was in my parents' house when I got back from work, and I just, it's so cringe. We could probably pull it up, but it's like, it's on LinkedIn. Yeah.
I said, but why? What made you at that point? You were 18. You were like, I'm gonna start posting on LinkedIn. Like, cause I started recently I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook is just value content around the stuff that I'm actively working around for the past like 14 days. Cause I want to, again, we're gonna get into it right after this, is creation versus consumption. I want to create, I want to output versus consume to kind of control what I'm programming myself to, you know, digest on a subconscious and conscious level. Like, what started that for you? Were you like 30 days? I'm gonna go 30 days. I'm gonna go as much as possible. Like, what was that?
It was kind of just as much as possible. Like, I didn't do like none of those like 30-day challenges or anything like that, which maybe would have been a good idea. But all I really did was like, my now, you know, ex-business partner Sam from Blank Slate, which we'll get into at another point, he was like the OG in me and him were like the two business guys. And like, I was always the guy who was like more low key, like, you know, working this job. I was like, thinking about this thing. He was like out there, content, doing stuff in like 2016, 2017, like full blown content stuff.
So you're like Patrick, you're like, I don't want to do content.
Pretty much. Yeah. I was like, fuck this, man. Like, I just want to make money and fucking, you know, be low key. And he's like, dude, just try. This was like when LinkedIn was blowing up. Like, anybody who is listening who remembers like LinkedIn 2017, 2018, 2019, like that shit was, you could post about anything, it would damn near just blow up, especially if you're young and you're new, like whatever. Yeah. So I was like, all right, you know, I'm just gonna start. And I was like, I'm not a very good writer. That's why I don't know how to like sales, is because my best form of communication is speaking. So I'm like, why don't I just, you know, take what I write out these text posts for and just sit down and record it. It takes me a minute. Like, I can fucking do that. I can commit to doing a minute of just unedited, you know, selfie style video. And then from there, you just start documenting. And I actually was looking at my iMovie the other day that has like a lot of those OG videos still on them. And it's like, dude, I was hitting on everything. I was talking about like current events. I was talking about what I'm doing, you know, what my past was, where I'm going, like finance, like all of like everything I'm interested in, like money, business, like all this shit, which is just super cool. But again, we talked about when we started this, just didn't stay consistent. It's like, oh fuck, like
you must have felt like you were on an island, because like not only you were on this path, but like most 18-year-olds are. Like, I didn't know what I was like when I was 18. All I knew is I wanted to do is run track and get a scholarship for it if my grades didn't suck, so I can run in Rio or run in the Olympics or jump in the Olympics. Like that was. But other than that, like I didn't have any crystal clear. I had an ambition towards athletics, and then that's translated into now. You know, I still do athletics, but now it's more so focused on business or marketing or whatever. Like, did you know anybody else doing that when you were 18, or you was just? No,
not really. Like, apart from like, there was a couple, like, you know, my ex-business partner Sam, who only were ex because we sold our company. It's not like we had a falling out, but like,
good terms.
Yeah, great terms. Talked to him today. Like, him, and that was based. There's one other kid in my grade who like had rich parents and did like crypto shit in like 2016. So I was like, fuck, like what's he doing? But like, for me, it was like, and we'll get into this maybe at a later day. Like, I had a lot of things happen in my life consecutively in 2018 where like this negative thing happens, this negative thing happens, this negative thing happens, where it's like sports out the window. Right. What I thought I was going to do for a career out the window. College, expensive. My parents broke. So like, there's all these things where it's just like, oh, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. And then eventually I'm just like, dude, I need to change something. I'm already kind of forced into this position where it's like, I feel like God, or, you know, whatever you believe in, the universe, whatever, is kind of forcing me to be different. Point is, to answer your question originally, not necessarily. I just kind of had things happen where it kind of forced me into a corner. I was like, well, I should probably start doing something different. Like, no one was going to do it for you.
Why didn't you give up? Like, that's the thing. Because like the reason why I'm harnessing on this or harping on this is because most people get to like, that's why I like chess, because chess puts me into a solution oriented mindset about everything that I do. So it hardens my ability to go ahead and go from, okay, point A didn't work, point B. You sound like you just did it so casually, when meanwhile the world is like, go on without me. Yeah. And they went through one obstacle, and then they haven't checked door, you know, B, C, D, etc. Like, what, do you understand like your brain's just wired differently. Like, is there anything that like triggered that, or is it like a life event, or is it just you only remember to be solution oriented to go from point A to point B to point C? Because most people aren't like that.
No, I mean, anybody who knows me from high school knows that I was not like that. Like, I was not that guy. Like, I'm not the guy that I am here now. And that's why I'm not that. You're not that guy, pal. I was not that guy, pal. And that's why it's like sometimes I almost consider myself to be, my birthday's in less than a month, but like I only consider myself to be like 3 years old, dude, because like the first 18 years of my life might as well have been a fucking wash. Like, didn't do anything productive, made virtually no progress. And I mean, obviously there was stuff that you did, but at the time it was like, I look, especially, you know, at 18 and a half, 19, I was like, dude, I just wasted so much fucking time. And that was when I made the decision. And if you check on my Instagram, my bio only says 2 things. It's like what I do and then always pursuing better. That's like my motto. Like, I'm going to get that tattooed on me. That's going to be like the House of Sroor. That's our like motto for, you know, my family. Like, that is just what we do. When I made the decision to, like, whether it was in physical fitness, you know, fixing my mental health, business, any of that, sales, like whatever it is, I was like, I need to be advancing. Like, I just have to be improving. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just gonna fucking end up the way I don't want to. And I was grateful enough, and this is what I think really did it. Long way to answer your question. You see enough people doing and living the life that you don't want to live. Mm-hmm. Eventually you're like, well, I'm going to end up exactly like that, especially if it's your entire environment. You're like, I don't want to live that way. Mm-hmm. Everybody in my environment currently is that way, and everything is forcing me down that path. I need to break free of like the mold, and I need to break out of the current. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up right where they are. And I've already seen how that movie ends. So I was thankful to have experienced a lot of that at a young age, where it's like, I don't want to live that fucking life, dude. Like, you're going to end up dead or in jail. And it's like, that's not the end result that I want for my life. So
no, that's next level, because I resonate that completely. Like, that's essentially how I ended up in Arizona. Like, I didn't like my current environment back east. You know, we're back from the Midwest, so I was coming from Michigan, and they kind of more so plateaued, but I got a taste of levels above that, and I was like, I gotta go where, you know, where it's going to give me the best opportunity to see what door or levels 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are at. But that, it's just interesting to see, because like it just seems like this was always within us, and we had to more so like break it out of us.
100%.
But a lot of people, I feel there's a lot of people that have it, but they don't necessarily know how to they don't know how to unravel it. And a lot of people never do unravel it. That's the crazy thing, where, you know, you see potential in other people, but like they have to be the ones that take it out. So it's super interesting to see us together. Because again, you said the whole bio thing. Like, my bio, as to what it says, not built to live a normal existence. Yeah. I'm like, yo, like that.
It's the same shit. It's the same shit. I think this may be a controversial opinion, but I truly do not believe that everybody has what it takes to do what we do.
No, it's hard.
it's extremely hard. But the thing is that everybody thinks it's extremely easy. So everybody thinks that they have what it takes. Mm-hmm. And I was actually just talking about this earlier today. If you don't actually believe that you can, I'm just going to pick base level examples, start a business, quit your job, work remote, make $10,000 a month, like whatever the initial benchmark is, you may think, oh, like this guy's doing it, Nate's doing it, Shawn's doing it, like that's so cool, man. But like, if you don't actually believe that you have the ability to do it, there's no chance.
No, I'm right there with you. And then this is going to segue into the next point. And this is why this is beautiful, because it's not easy what we're doing or how we're operating. And this is why we want to create versus consume. Yep. So the whole creation versus consumption. So when I say that, we talked about it enough times. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? We've talked about it enough, but
I think everybody consumes, but very few people actually create.
Yes.
Even most creators, they may not consume the same type of content that they make, but they consume something. I think everybody naturally, especially in this day and age, I mean, take it back to the 60s before there was the internet. People read the newspaper, people listen to the radio, like everybody consumes, right? Like there's no avoiding, especially now. I mean, you got podcasts and TV and Instagram and TikTok. It's like you could sit all day and you'll never see the same video twice. Like there's that much content out there, but there's very few people who actually create it. And there's even less people who actually create original shit. 100%. So it's like, for me, it's like, how can I create something that's unique to me, original, and, you know, like the point we said originally, we already have these conversations. Like, I almost wish that
we talk about this stuff anyway. We just throw a camera in front of it.
Yeah, it's like we go out and get drinks or go to dinner or whatever. It's like we're having the conversation, right? It's like we might as well just document it. Like, there's no reason not to. So that's kind of what I think is like everybody, including myself, is a consumer, but
100%.
There's very few who actually produce that, and those are the ones who, you know, can win.
We have the ability to document the process. You don't have to. We're doing this for many reasons. We're gonna have families. You know, we got to repopulate the earth. You know, a bunch of just responsible. We got a lot of responsibility. So when it comes down to having a blueprint of where we started, is like it's super important, because we are no longer in an era where we have to go off of he said, she said. So to be able to see, okay, let's say you become a professional poker player and it happened by accident, and then you just so happen to get to the point where, you know, you have the videos where we had poker, let's say on Tuesdays every Thursday, and then it turned into something. To be able to see that process is like where go. Like, how much money would we, you know, pay to see, you know, our great grandparents? Like, I always think about that. I think about that a lot. I always think about like, I wonder what how my family operated, so I can see where I rooted from. Like, what characteristics did I take away from my great grandparents? You know, like for me, I did my DNA ancestry test where I'm like a mutt from all over the country, all over the world. Yeah. So I'm like, how did it go from here to here to here? So now we're in an era now, 100 years from now, everyone's gonna be able to see this,
or they're not. I think that's the thing I want to key in on is like, at this point in this day and age, you're gonna have the legacy. This is like, I think it's the only way to leave a legacy. Is like, you have to be documenting and creating, because otherwise nobody, including your own bloodline, is gonna know who the fuck you are.
Yes.
You have to. So it's like, I think about that, and I'll let you continue on that. But like, that's, I think, the key is either you're gonna have a legacy or you're not at the stage of the world that we currently are. I think it's very, very difficult to actually be remembered unless it's all documented for people to know.
100%. And that goes in the whole progression part of it. Like, you know, you don't have to necessarily care about, like, people, it's a huge epidemic of people not being happy, but part of it is people aren't progressing. So if you're not progressing, then you're idle. And if you're idle, then that means that's where the depression comes from. So if you can hold yourself accountable of, all right, I'm going to go from point A to point B. I'm going to podcast, and then I'm going to go from 100 listeners to 1,000 listeners, or I'm going to lift 600 pounds to 700 pounds, and hold yourself to it. And just so happen to say, hey guys, I lifted 50 more pounds than I did 14 weeks ago, and I'm excited about it. Like, not even to someone, but to yourself. Like, I have so many videos of my own where I'm talking to myself like a progress report on YouTube. They're unlisted. Dude. Where I'm like, Shawn Severs, you know, I was 14 years old, and this is how I feel about this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
that's crazy that you say that, because during COVID, I have like 2 on my phone somewhere, but I wanted to do this thing where like every Sunday, I was never going to post these videos, but like every Sunday I was going to do like basically a recap of my life.
40 minutes.
We're at 30.
Okay.
We're at 29, 30.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Cool.
You want to just pause it?